Last lecture we studied soil pollution and air pollution. So today we are going to be looking at the next two topics of water pollution and marine pollution. Now you know is water is an essential element of life, right? It is an integral element to sustain life on earth, and without water, you know that this world will not exist. The living things will not exist. But water is something that we usually take for granted, right? Because it flows from our taps whenever we turn it on, right? So um, most of us, almost all of us, we are able to get water whenever we want it, right? That is why it is one element that is taken for granted. But you have seen that, but in our last unit of natural resources, we studied that water is very, the percentage of fresh water on earth, right? It is very, very low, right? It is less than 1%. So that graph where we saw the percentage of usable water, that highlights the need for water conservation. And water pollution is harming whatever little domestic water we already have. Clear? So that is why looking at this topic is very important. Now, what is water pollution? So, addition of any substances to the water which changes the chemical and physical composition of the water is nothing but water pollution. So, what happens is that it becomes unfit for any other purpose, right? So, it cannot be used for um, sustaining life, and it also cannot be used for any drinking purposes. Clear? So, for any human and ecosystem functions, it cannot be used. So when we look at water pollution, there are two types of pollutants, right? So we are going to be looking at classification of water pollutants. So there are two ways of classifying that. So the first way of classification of that is this current slide. What are those two types of pollutants? So there is a point source and there is a non-point source. Clear? So remember, this question has been asked in the UPSC preliminary exams, in the prelims exams. Clear? So make sure you understand the difference between them. So when a source of pollution, it can be readily identified, right? So it means that it has a definite source, so you know where the pollutant is coming from. That means that it is a point source. Like for example, you have the municipal waste or an industrial discharge waste, right? So industries, they discharge their waste into the waters with the help of pipelines, or even municipal waste or domestic waste, right? So there you can identify the source, right? So you can pinpoint the source of the pollutant. That is why it is called as a point source. Now sometimes what happens, the exact source, it cannot be identified, right? So the other type is called as a non-point source, which means that the source of pollution it cannot be readily identified. For example, agricultural runoff. Clear? So, if there are vast fields, right, then and there is agricultural runoff of pesticides or other toxic elements into the adjoining river or into the adjoining canal, then you cannot say from which farm it originated. Clear? So, similarly, the same is the case with acid rain. That is why that is called as a non-point source of pollutions. Okay, so when we classify water pollutants as point and non-point source, so remember that um, for measures of control of water pollution, point sources can be easily dealt with, right? But it is difficult to deal with these non-point sources. Clear? So these are two important types of water pollutants. Now, the other way that you can also classify water pollutants is the next slide. So, we are going to be looking at four other types of pollutants. Yeah. So, how can you also classify water pollutants? So, the first way is by disease causing agents. Now, you know that um, various bacteria, viruses, right, various protozoans, also a lot of worms, right, they enter into the water and they pollute the water. Clear? So if the water is uh, if disease causing agents are polluting the water, then it becomes unfit for human consumption, right? So these disease causing agents, they are one type of water pollutant. Now they enter the water from domestic sewage and untreated human and animal waste, right? So for example, you know that a lot of drainage, domestic drainage, it enters into the water source, and therefore it pollutes it. Clear? Now these bacteria or these disease causing agents, they are not harmful in a low concentration, but if they are present in a very high concentration, then obviously they are a risk. Clear? So the greater the amount of waste in the water, greater are the chances of contracting diseases from them. Clear? And therefore greater is the water pollution. Now another category is these oxygen depleting wastes. Okay, so what are these oxygen depleting wastes? So this is a very important concept, so make sure you understand it. You must have heard about it. It is called as biological oxygen demand. So this concept of biological oxygen demand is an index which is used as an indicator for the level of pollution in the water. Clear? So if I take a water sample from the river, right, and if I analyze it in the lab, there is an experiment to find out the BOD of the water. If the BOD of the water is high, it means that the pollution is very low. If it is very low, then it means that the pollution is very high. Clear? So BOD is a proper laboratory index, a proper titer used to find the level of pollution in the water. Clear? Now what is this? What is this biological oxygen? Clear? So what happens, remember that in water there are some organic wastes, right, which can be decomposed by oxygen requiring bacteria, which means some aerobic bacteria. Clear? Now what happens, the amount of oxygen which is required to break down a certain amount of organic matter, it is called as biological oxygen demand. Clear? So what happens in water, you know that there are some wastes. Now these wastes are degraded by a lot of oxygen, right? So oxygen is needed to waste to break these down. Clear? So but if there is no oxygen in the water only, then obviously that waste will not be degraded, and therefore that waste will accumulate. Clear? And if there is accumulation of waste in the water, obviously it is going to cause pollution. Clear? So what we need is, we need a lot of well oxygenated water for it to be called as a pollution free water, right? So what can be done? So what can be done in this case is that whenever this organic matter decays, right, oxygen levels decrease and the fish and other aquatic species also dies. Clear? So what happens, oxygen is very integral for the health of the water. Is that clear? So what we need to do is, these oxygen depleting wastes, they should not be, or this organic matter, it should not be allowed to enter into the water source or the rivers. Clear? Now the third type is an inorganic plant nutrients. Now this concept is also very important. It is called as eutrophication. So what happens now, there are some water soluble nitrates and phosphates, right? What happens when these nitrates and phosphates, they enter into the uh, water, what happens, they cause excessive growth of algae and other aquatic plants, right? Now when they do that, what happens, because there is a lot of algae or other aquatic plants growing on the water, it looks like a green mat, right? So if you have observed any river, right, it sometimes there's a green mat over it, right? What is that? That is nothing but a lot of algae growing. And why is that algae growing? Because the water has a lot of nitrates and phosphates into them. Clear? It has a lot of inorganic nutrients. Now obviously, if there is a lot of algae growth or other aquatic growth on the water, it is going to cause clogging, right? It is going to change the taste of the water, it is going to change the odor of the water, right? So that is how it is going to pollute the water. And also it is going to cause a buildup of organic matter. Clear? So more organic matter, like we saw in the last slide, more organic water matter, more will be less will be the oxygen. Clear? And therefore it is essential that there is no mat growth of algae on the water. Clear? So therefore the water should be free of any nitrates or phosphates. Clear? Now this whole phenomenon where the algae grows on the water because of excess nitrates and phosphates in the water, it is called as eutrophication. Clear? So eu means a lot, right? And eutrophication means a growth. Clear? So a lot of growth of these algae and aquatic plants on the water surface, leading to a green mat, right, which causes a lot of, it interferes with the regular use of the water. Clear? That is called as eutrophication. Clear? Now eutrophication is a major cause for, it is a major cause for pollution of water. Clear? So this happens naturally also, or it can happen artificially also. So artificially, if you have a lot of fertilizers, so fertilizers contain N and K, nitrates and phosphates. So if a lot of fertilizers are entering into the wa- water due to agricultural runoff, it may also cause eutrophication. Is that clear? So the second type of pollutant was oxygen depleting waste. The third type is the inorganic plant nutrients. Clear? And now the fourth type are some chemicals. They can be organic or they can be inorganic. Now these chemicals, like for example, what are they? They can be acids, they can be some salts, clear, or they can be some toxic metals like mercury and lead. All this can enter from your industrial discharges. Clear? So that, then you also have certain oils. So remember, oil is also a great pollutant of water. So we are going to be looking at one case study where we look at oil as a major pollutant. And then plastics, obviously. So you have a lot of plastic pieces inside the water and so there can be sometimes detergents. Then also remember, there can be radioactive isotopes. Clear? So from a nuclear power plant there can be release of the wastewater, and that can contain a radioactive isotope. Clear? But due precaution is always taken. It is not the case that there is no precaution taken. Clear? So that might be the case. And then also remember hot water. Now this is very important because what is needed is that when water is used for a lot of power plants and industries, right, they use it for cooling the plant, right, because what happens, they need the hot water to convert it into steam, right, to drive their turbines, right, obviously, and to generate electricity. But what happens, for the efficient functioning of these turbines, the steam is condensed into water, right, after it leaves the turbines. Now, this condensation is done by taking water from the water body, so whichever whichever lake or water source is available, and then this, what happens, this heated water, right, the heated water that leaves the turbines from your hydroelectricity plant, for example. So that water, it is usually 15 degrees Celsius higher than that of the normal temperature of the water body. Clear? So what happens, it is, so normally 15-degree water will not be hot, but when you compare it to the normal temperature of the water body, it is hot for that. Clear? So this hot water, it enters into the natural ecosystem, and therefore it causes, what does it do, it decreases the solubility of oxygen in the existing water body. Clear? And you know that if there is less oxygen, then obviously there will be less aquatic wildlife. Clear? And therefore it also affects the breeding cycle of these aquatic organisms. So it is very essential that your water that is discharged from, say, your hydroelectricity plants is of the same temperature as that of the existing water body. Is that clear? So that is actually called as thermal pollution, but we will be looking at that in detail in the next lectures. Clear? But for this water pollution, now we have grouped it into the same category of organic and inorganic chemicals. Clear? So remember that water pollutants, they are classified as point source and non-point source, or they are also classified as disease causing agents, oxygen depleting agents, inorganic plant agents, and organic and inorganic chemical agents. Is that clear? So there are two ways of classifying water pollutants, out of which we have seen both of them. Is that clear? And in that, the two main concepts are, first is the biological oxygen demand, that is BOD, There is also COD, chemical oxygen demand. So for your homework, you look up what COD is. Clear? And if you have any questions, you can always email me. And another very important concept that we saw is something called as eutrophication. Clear? So eutrophication is a core ES concept that you must understand. And if you have not understood it, please email me. We will discuss it in the next lecture also. So going to the next part is now how do you classify water pollution. Clear? So water pollution, it can be classified as two types. So one is a freshwater pollution and one is a marine water pollution. In fresh water, again, you have two types. Remember, there is surface water pollution and there is groundwater pollution. Clear? So if you have a question on what are the causes of water pollution, then you must write both surface water pollution and groundwater pollution. Clear? So don't just stick to one type. Now when we look at groundwater, okay, let's first look at the causes of water pollution. So what are the causes of water pollution? So natural, we already saw microorganisms, so we saw a lot of those disease causing agents. Then we also saw eutrophication, and there can be some leaching activity also. So leaching of different chemicals and different toxic elements like mercury. Yeah, so that can be a natural cause. Now anthropogenic means man-made causes of water pollution. So what are they? They can be domestic waste, industrial waste, and agricultural waste. So clear? So we have already discussed this. It's a very basic concept. So natural causes of water pollution: surface water is microorganisms and eutrophication, and leaching activity, it actually contaminates the groundwater more than the surface water. Is that clear? And in anthropogenic causes for surface water, again you have domestic wastewater and sewage. There can be industrial wastewater or agricultural wastewater. And again for groundwater pollution, it can be leaching. It is leaching activity from domestic and industrial solid waste. Is that clear? So these are the anthropogenic causes. Now let's look at groundwater pollution in detail. Clear? So um, because it's again a very essential resource for an agricultural country like India, because India is an agrarian country, right? And it is dependent on monsoon. So we don't always have rainfall. We don't have rainfall all over the year, right? So we have to store water. And if you store water in the form of recharging of groundwater, then you're going to have the then the farmer is going to have the advantage of getting water all throughout the year. Is that clear? So that is why groundwater is very essential for agrarian country like India. And therefore therefore we are looking at what causes groundwater pollution. Is that clear? So obviously, so you know that oil spills, right? So for example, oil spills are highly visible, and oil spill pollution of surface water is very common, right? It is also very easy to notice, right? But a greater threat to human life, it comes from your groundwater being polluted. Yeah, because groundwater is used for drinking and irrigation. Yeah, so farmers use groundwater for irrigation, and in urban places or in rural places also. So you know that we dig a bore well, and what does this bore well uh, tap into? It taps into your groundwater, right? And if that groundwater itself is polluted, it is harmful, because you're going to use that groundwater, that bore well water, for a lot of domestic purposes like drinking also. Clear? So it's very essential that your groundwater is clean. Yeah, so water, why is it important? Because it is very easy to deplete, and it is also very easy to pollute it. Clear? Now remember that compared to your surface water, this groundwater, it gets renewed very slowly. It does not get renewed fast. Clear? Your surface water, every time there's a rainfall, it is going to get renewed. But groundwater recharge takes a lot of time. Clear? So that is why these foundations like your Rajendra Singh, he is called as the waterman of India. Clear? So he is famous for doing a lot of water recharge in regions of Rajasthan. Clear? So you have that, or you also have the Pani Foundation, or you have the Naam Foundation. That is why these foundations, they are working on recharging of groundwater. Clear? So if you do it now, it will take a lot of time, right? So that is why it is essential, because it gets renewed very slowly. And then what is it, the groundwater flows are also slow and they are not turbulent. Clear? So remember that the contaminants, if the groundwater gets contaminated, then remember that it cannot be effectively diluted. Clear? Because the flow is slow, and therefore it cannot be dispersed as efficiently as surface water. Clear? So it remains concentrated. So groundwater pollution, it remains concentrated, it cannot be diluted as much as the surface water. And therefore paying attention to groundwater is essential, is extremely essential. Is that clear? So that is why, that is the importance of groundwater. Clear? So if you get a question about the importance of groundwater and why it is necessary to check groundwater pollution, these are your answers. Clear? So you read this also, and if you have any doubts, you let me know. Is that clear? So what are the causes of groundwater pollution? So here in the first slide we already saw why it is important to keep it fresh, but what if it does not remain fresh, then what causes pollution? Okay, so what causes pollution of groundwater? I'm sure you can write a few reasons, but I have jotted down a few important points here for your understanding. So the first one is, so I'm not going to do this for every type of pollution, clear? But I thought groundwater pollution is very important, in the sense that you have not discussed this topic in your previous I think in your 11th and 12th, clear? So that is why I have highlighted groundwater pollution. So what causes it is the urban runoff of untreated and poorly treated wastewater garbage, right? Then there is so there is urban domestic runoff. There is also industrial waste. Yeah. So sometimes that waste gets located above or near the aquifers, and therefore it contaminates the groundwater. Now also another one is agriculture. Like for example, application of large amounts of fertilizers and pesticides, right? Animal feeding operations, all of that also causes a lot of groundwater pollution. Then there is leachate from landfills. So you know that landfills already they cause soil pollution, and now they also cause groundwater pollution. Sometimes you can have a leaking or a poorly designed septic tanks. So septic tanks, they are used for purification of water in urban systems. So if they are purely designed, or if there is a leakage, then that water can seep underground and cause pollution. And obviously mining waste, clear? Because already mining waste is, it can be, if it is a shaft type of mining, then it can cause a lot of underground pollution, clear? So these are the causes of these water pollution, clear? So sorry, these are the causes of groundwater pollution, and therefore it is essential that we check it. Yeah, now I already remember I told you about um, oil spills, clear? So these are the two types of uh, case studies that we're going to be looking at, which highlight the need for water conservation, clear? So um, so the first one, which so this arsenicosis, it means arsenic toxicity. So for example, there has in Kolkata, right? There was a case in the 1980s of a large amount of groundwater being contaminated with arsenic, clear? And that is called as arsenicosis. So there have been several cases of arsenic poisoning because of contaminated groundwater, which was reported from West Bengal. Is that clear? So there was a former professor from the School of Tropical Medicine. So he was a skin specialist, right? So to him, a lot of patients came who had skin lesions on their hands, right? So why was that? It was because of arsenic toxicity, right? So he found out that even the health officials of different districts, they are suffering from this arsenic poisoning. Is that clear? So excess amount of arsenic in the groundwater um, was the one which was causing uh, this disease, clear? So what happened is the skin of these people, it started showing black and white spots, clear? And then also it got other complications like your liver or spleen complications. Clear? So what was the take home message from this is that groundwater can be seriously contaminated and it can cause a lot of diseases, and it has already caused a lot of diseases in West Bengal. But I am sure that if you read recent reports, even parts of Uttar Pradesh, right, they show a lot of arsenic poisoning in vegetables. Is that clear? Because the groundwater is absorbed by the plants, right? So this is a cause for concern, right? And therefore this type of pollution must be checked. Now what is the second case here is that, so Exxon, it's a petroleum company, right? So what happened in around 1989, what happened, they had a tanker, and now this tanker, it was very huge. So it was more than 3 football fields together. So that was the huge size of this tanker which was carrying oil. And what happened, it went off course near Alaska, right? So what happened, it hit submerged rocks, like it hit submerged rocks, and therefore there was a lot of leakage of oil from this tanker. So what is oil slick? So when oil gets coated over oceanic waters, it is called as oil slick. Clear? So there was a lot of oil which got coated on the waters around more than 1600 kilometers of shoreline, right? And what happened, there was a huge environmental loss. So more than 5 lakh water birds and a large amount of other animals, they also died because of this covering of oil on the water surface. Clear? Because the animals, they started absorbing the oil into their bodies. For example, the fish, the gills of the fish, they got stuck with oil, and therefore they were unable to breathe, and therefore there was a lot of environmental disaster. Clear? So these two case studies, they highlight the importance for checking this pollution. Is that clear? So later on there was a study done about this case of Exxon, and what it was, they had to pay, I think, around 1 billion rupees in fine and civil damages. Clear? But later on a study was done, is that if Exxon would have spent a few amounts of dollars to fit a tanker with a double hull, right, which means that one inside the other, so it should have double walls. So if the tanker had double walls, then obviously the leakage would have been very less, and therefore it would have caused less environmental damage. Clear? So recently, all the tankers that transport oil today, they all are double hulled. Clear? So these are the two cases that highlight the need for conservation of water and checking water pollution. Now in our next lecture we will look at, I think we have already studied this effect of water pollution. So we saw eutrophication. Obviously there is oxygen depletion, then it increases the acidity of the water, right? Acidic water is not good, remember, but even acidic soil is not good. Then obviously if the water is acidic, it is not going to be agriculturally fertile, therefore it is causing agricultural land degradation. Then there's going to be food chain contamination, so we will look at this topic in our next class. And obviously aesthetic value, which means that the water is going to not look clean, it is going to smell, it is going to have a foul odor. Clear? So the aesthetic value of water is going to decrease. So all these are the effects of water pollution. Is that clear? So that is why it is very essential that we check